Section 4 of As a Matter of Course. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. As a Matter of Course by Payson Call. The Triviality of Trivialities. Life is clearer, happier, and easier for us as things assume their true proportions. I might better say, as they come nearer in appearance to their true proportions, for it seems doubtful whether anyone ever reaches the place in this world where the sense of proportion is absolutely normal. Some come much nearer than others, and part of the interest of living is the growing realization of better proportion, and the relief from the abnormal state in which circumstances seem quite out of proportion in their relation to one another. Imagine a landscape painter who made his cows as large as the houses, his blades of grass waving above the tops of the trees, and all things similarly disproportionate. Or worse, imagine a disease of the retina which caused a like curious change in the landscape itself, wherein a mountain appeared to be a molehill, and a molehill a mountain. It seems absurd to think of, and yet is not the want of a true sense of proportion in the circumstances and relations of life quite as extreme with many of us? It is well that our physical sense remains intact. If we lost that too, there would seem to be but little hope indeed. Now almost the only thing needed for a rapid approach to a more normal mental sense of proportion is a keener recognition of the want. But this want must be found first in ourselves, not in others. There is the inclination to regard our own life as bigger and more important than the life of anyone about us, or the reverse attitude of bewailing its lack of importance, which is quite the same. In either case, our own life is dwelt upon first. Then there is the immediate family, after that our own especial friends, all assuming a gigantic size, which puts quite out of the question an occasional bird's-eye view of the world in general. Even objects which might be in the middle distance of a less extended view are quite screened by the exaggerated size of those which seem to concern us most immediately. One's own life is important. One's own family and friends are important, very, when taken in their true proportion. One should surely be able to look upon one's own brothers and sisters as if they were the brothers and sisters of another, and to regard the brothers and sisters of another as one's own. Singularly, too, real appreciation of and sympathy with one's own grows with this broader sense of relationship. In no way is this sense shown more clearly than by a mother who has the breadth and the strength to look upon her own children as if they belonged to someone else, and upon the children of others as if they belonged to her. But the triviality of magnifying one's own out of all proportion has not yet been recognized by many. So every trivial happening in our lives, or the lives of those connected with us, is exaggerated, and we keep ourselves and others in a chronic state of contraction accordingly. Think of the many trifles which, by being magnified and kept in the foreground, obstruct the way to all possible sight or appreciation of things that really hold a more important place. The cook, the waitress, various other annoyances of housekeeping, a gown that does not suit, the annoyances of travel, whether we said the right thing to so-and-so, whether so-and-so likes us or does not like us. Indeed, there is an immense army of trivial imps, and the breadth of capacity for entertaining these imps is so large in some of us as to be truly encouraging, for if the domain were once deserted by the imps, there remains the breadth, which must have the same capacity for holding something better. Unfortunately, a long occupancy by these miserable little offenders means eventually the saddest sort of contraction. What a picture for a new Gulliver, a human being overwhelmed by the imps of triviality, and bound fast to the ground by manifold windings of their cobweb-sized thread. This exaggeration of trifles is one form of nervous disease. It would be exceedingly interesting and profitable to study the various phases of nervous disease as exaggerated expressions of perverted character. They can be traced directly and easily in many cases. If a woman fusses about trivialities, she fusses more when she's tired. The more fatigue, the more fussing, and with a persistent tendency to fatigue and fussing, it does not take long to work up or down to nervous prostration. From this form of nervous excitement, one never really recovers, except by a hearty acknowledgment of the trivialities as trivialities, when with growing health there is a growing sense of true proportion. I have seen a woman spend more attention, time, and nerve power on emphasizing the fact that her hands are all stained from the dye on her dress than a normal woman would take for a good hour's work. As she grew better, this emphasizing of trivialities decreased, but of course might have returned with any over-fatigue, unless it had been recognized, taken at its worth, and simply dropped. Anyone can think of example after example in his own individual experience, when he has suffered unnecessary tortures through the regarding of trifling things, either by himself or by someone near him. With many, the first instance will probably be to insist, with emphasis and some feeling, that they are not trivialities. Trivialities have their importance when given their true proportion. The size of a triviality is often exaggerated, as much by neglect as by an undue amount of attention. When we do what we can to amend an annoyance, and then think no more about it until there appears something further to do, the saving of nervous force is very great. Yet so successful have these imps of triviality come to be in their rule of human nature, that the trivialities of the past are oftentimes dwelt upon with as much earnestness as if they belonged to the present. The past itself is a triviality, except in its results. Yet what an immense screen it is sometimes to any clear understanding or appreciation of the present. How many of us have listened over and over to the same tale of past annoyances, until we wonder how it can be possible that the constant repetition is not recognized by the narrator. How many of us have been over and over in our minds past troubles, little and big, so that we have no right whatever to feel impatient when listening to such repetitions by others. Here again we have in nervous disease the extreme of a common trait in humanity. With increased nervous fatigue, there is always an increase of the tendency to repetition. Best drop it before it gets to the fatigue stage, if possible. Then again, there are the common things of life, such as dressing and undressing, and the numberless everyday duties. It is possible to distort them to perfect monstrosities by the manner of dwelling upon them. Taken as a matter of course, they are the very triviality of trivialities, and assume their place without second thought. When life seems to get into such a snarl that we despair of disentangling it, a long journey and change of human surroundings enable us to take a distant view, which not uncommonly shows the tangle to be no tangle at all. Although we cannot always go upon a material journey, we can change the mental perspective, and it is this adjustment of the focus which brings our perspective into truer proportions. Having once found what appears to be the true focus, let us be true to it. The temptations to lose one's focus are many, and sometimes severe. When temporarily thrown off our balance, the best help is to return at once, without dwelling on the fact that we've lost the focus longer than is necessary to find it again. After that, our focus is better adjusted and the range steadily expanded. It is impossible for us to widen the range by thinking about it. Holding the best focus we know in our daily experience does that. Thus the proportions arrange themselves. We cannot arrange the proportions. Or, what is more nearly the truth, the proportions are in reality true to begin with. As with the imaginary eye disease, which transformed the relative sizes of the component parts of a landscape, the fault is in the eye, not in the landscape. So when the circumstances of life are quite in the wrong proportion to one another, in our own minds, the trouble is in the mental sight, not in the circumstances. There are many ways of getting a better focus and ridding one's self of trivial annoyances. One is to be quiet. Get at a good mental distance. Be sure that you have a clear view and then hold it. Always keep your distance. Never return to the old standpoint if you can manage to keep away. We may be thankful if trivialities annoy us as trivialities. It is with those who have the constant habit of dwelling on them without feeling the discomfort that a return to freedom seems impossible. As one comes to realize, even in a slight degree, the triviality of trivialities, and then forget them entirely in a better idea of true proportion, the sense of freedom gained is well worth working for. It certainly brings the possibility of a normal nervous system much nearer. End of section 4. Read by Sandra. Near Montreal, 2025.